Welcome back to Mythic Tarantino, where we analyze Quentin Tarantino's films from a mythological perspective. My name is John, and this is my brother Nick.
Howdy. I
All
feel like
right.
we're gonna have to rename this thing when we run out of Tarantino movies.
I've been thinking about that. Um, so today we are going to be reviewing a Tarantino movie called Inglorious Basterds. Nick, do you have a quote for us from that movie?
Yes, I do. It's from very early on. Quote from The Jew Hunter. I love rumors. Facts are often misleading, but rumors, true or false, can be so revealing.
Yes. And so what does that quote how does that quote exemplify the mythological themes of this movie?
So I think that this movie is ultimately about seeking truth and finding truth amongst lies.
Hmm.
Uh, there's some degree of that in every one of the storylines.
Yeah.
Uh,
There's the storylines all share many, many things. I was making all types of connections
mhm.
between them all. But yeah, I think that essentially like all the good characters in this movie are seekers of truth. Um, well, actually, some of the bad characters too, because
Most of the
Hans Landa is seeking truth as well.
and Hallstrom, uh, who's I don't think he's ever named in the movie, but
Yeah,
like
who
his
is that?
that's the SS guy that
Oh
susses out
yeah, oh yeah,
Stiglitz and the that
he's so
that was a
captivating.
yeah he's uh yeah so I think it's I think it's about seeking truth. And I think it's also kind of it's that about the about fascism itself.
Hmm.
Like I think Zoller is he doesn't really fall into the truth seeking uh theme all that well with his storyline, but Zoller is definitely more of an indictment of fascism as a single character.
How so?
So where he's really playing this part of being uh this this warrior who's also dapper and a gentleman and like everything the Germans sort of or the Germans sort of see themselves as, or the Nazis see themselves as. But then, like as the movie progresses, he does kind of the mask falls off, and he does reveal himself to be just kind of a monster.
Yeah, that was a really kind of a moment that jumped out when that happened. Like, oh, this guy really is is evil. And does really evil things. And this whole entire time that you were charmed by him, it was all just sort of a ruse for him to do evil things,
Yeah,
you
and
know?
and Shoshana was right about him all along.
Yeah.
Like like Shoshana already knows like probably the most important event of her life was watching a dapper, affable Nazi
Yeah.
uh kill her entire family.
Yeah.
So she saw through Zoller's ruse just right off the bat.
Hmm. Well, and in as an audience, though, I didn't. Like I was sort of like I was sort of like, wow,
He's so
he's saying,
nice.
yeah, he's so nice. How could you not like him? He's charming. Um, he's he's probably just going through the war like everybody else. And he even said it's just a uniform.
Yeah, yeah.
He
And
doesn't
then
even seem to care. And then he's also very humble too. He's
yeah,
like,
and like
oh, that's just a moot. It's like they're bringing it up. I'm not bringing it up, but it's something that happened.
yeah, and then I don't know if we want to get we're already talking about it, so you might as well.
Yeah.
At the very end of the movie where he's sort of forcing his way into Shoshana's office or the projector room, he's like his initial pitch is to say like, "Oh, I can't watch this part of the movie
Yeah.
because it upsets me to watch all these people die.
Hmm.
Like I don't want to, it upsets me to be known for killing." And then like literally a minute later, he's bragging about the 300 people he killed.
Yeah, well that I felt like that scene was incredibly interesting because I do genuinely think that he was upset by because they showed many multiple shots of him watching the screen and being upset by it and not wanting to watch. And I do believe that, because I mean, I'm sure that part of it is like he wishes that he was with Shoshana that whole time, and that like he's sort of like bored of the movie and wants to be with Shoshana. But
Yeah,
I think I think that he was genuinely upset about it because he at that moment saw who he really was on the screen and he didn't like it. Like that what he saw was who he really was. He's like this killer of
yeah. Well, he's
and
a brute.
a Nazi brute killer, yeah.
Yeah,
And I think that he even convinced himself for a while that he wasn't that. But seeing it on the screen, it sort of it sort of showed him in a mirror who he really was, and he didn't like it.
yeah. There's a lot of nicknames, a lot of people being referred to by their nicknames,
Oh yeah,
like the
nobody.
Apache, the Jew Hunter, the Bear Jew, the Little
Yeah,
Man.
and here's another thing. Almost everybody in this movie, their reputations precede them. They even say that. But like everybody, like the actress, um, Aldo and everybody.
Hmm.
Um, who else? There was even some people that were surprising that
Uh,
they're
so uh, Hans definitely says literally that exact combination of words when he's investigating the bar after the shootout happens.
yeah,
He,
Zoller,
he
his reputation preceded him too.
yeah,
Yeah. Anyway, go on. Sorry.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Like he looks down at Stiglitz's corpse and he goes, "Oh, your
Yeah.
reputation precedes you."
Yeah. But yeah, that was a big thing. Is like everybody sort of knew everybody in this movie except for
Shoshana.
Shoshana. Yeah.
No, but Hans knows her. And it's
Only
kind of
only Hans. Yeah.
only Hans, and it's kind of left to the audience whether or not he recognizes her.
Yeah, but he ordered a milk for hers.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he did.
No, he ordered strudel for both, espresso for both, but only ordered milk for himself.
Oh, I thought he ordered milk for her.
No,
Oh, yeah.
I
Well,
like
to me
I
that clinched it, the milk.
yeah, the milk, yeah, it was.
Although he could just like milk then. I guess if he ordered it for him,
Let's go back to the farmhouse. The farmhouse
the
was,
farmhouse, okay.
yeah, which was like honestly could be like a standalone short.
Yeah.
Like that was excellent.
Well, I think essentially all of these nicknames and everything like that,
Hmm.
they and all the scenes in this movie, they're basically all, if you like really break it down, they're all similar in a certain way, which is basically every character is trying to hide who they really are, and the other character is trying to figure out who they are, is trying to investigate who they are. Like, and this is only like if you really boil it down, that's what this scene is the farmer is trying to hide information that the Hans wants,
Yeah,
and there's this hidden identity. It's like Reservoir Dogs. It's something that Tarantino seems extremely interested with.
yeah. The idea of like putting on a mask and playing a part
Yeah,
of
yeah.
hiding who you really are.
Hmm. And it is actually a question that I've had too about Germany, is because Jews like Jews don't really, I mean they can kind of blend into a society. Like there's like their features are evident, like kind of show who they are, but
Yeah.
like Jewish people kind of look like other Europeans a lot. Enough that it would enough that you would need to investigate really deeply about, who the Jews are, separating the Jews from the not Jews. And I kind of questioned, like, I had a like, why wouldn't the Jews just say, "Oh yeah, I'm not Jewish." So,
So well, Hans actually does touch on that where he says, like I'm looking for Jews that are either in hiding or passing for Gentiles.
hmm
So I
yeah.
think I think that idea that you is was probably pretty common. Like
Yeah,
what
and
like if like why not just claim to not be Jewish? But
well, here's my question. Do you think were there people that existed like Hans Landa?
I don't know like historically, but for the purposes of this movie, like they didn't need to exist. Like even if this position, yeah, this position was fully invented, then like it still doesn't really affect the movie itself. Like it is deeply unrealistic that a military colonel would be driving from farmhouse to farmhouse,
Yeah, instead of
sitting in a
organizing supply chains and
yeah, instead of sitting in an office somewhere sending lackeys to do things.
hmm
He does do something interesting where he likens the like German soldiers to hawks and likens Jews to rats.
hmm
He because in his mind he clearly views this as like a predator and prey dynamic.
Yeah, I thought it was cool too how he said rats are seen as vile creatures, but I respect the rat for its resilience, I guess. I forget exactly what he said, but he respects the rat. He likes a rat and he can think like a rat.
Hmm.
And that kind of like presages what happens later on in the movie as well, where the Jews at the beginning of the movie are hiding, and then by the end of the movie, by the end of the war, it's the Nazis who are hiding.
Yeah, yeah, that's and that also is that does dovetail into Aldo's method of
Yes.
seeking truth, which is, in his own words, cruelty and fear. Like when he wants to know where a German military position is, he's cruel to one until he dies, and then it's strikes fear into the next one.
hmm
When he wants the world to know that someone's a Nazi, even after the war is over,
hmm
he decides to ensure that in the cruelest way possible. But
Well, yeah, it's sort of funny that that symbol, that image is extremely weird to have
yeah,
a swastika on you carved into your forehead. And you can't hide it, really. You can't hide you can't hide. You can hide like things over clothes and stuff, but you can't hide it over your face. Like that's the one thing you really can't hide.
yeah, unless you're wearing a big floppy hat like that one German soldier is.
hmm And bangs. You just
Yeah, that would have
Hans Landa is gonna have
like
like
Katy Perry
yeah,
bangs.
Katy Perry like pixie girl bangs. Blends right in.
Yeah, it's
He is an expert in blending in too.
he's very comfortable in high society, like
Like an
like an idle nobleman almost, where going from like party to party and like chatting people up and being super friendly.
mhm,
Then but then when he needs to, he can with like especially in the scene with Zoller where he puts him down hard, where he wants to question Shoshana, but Zoller steps in, tries to get him to stop, and then just immediately and as politely as possible shuts him up, like shuts him
mhm.
up.
Hmm. Yeah. That's sounded suspiciously like a private uh
Questioning the orders of a colonel.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was yeah. And he didn't phrase it in a way, he phrased it in sort of an ambiguous way, which he does throughout the movie. He always presents himself ambiguously and hides his plans. Like one of my major questions was why in the moment, if he knew who Shoshana was, didn't he arrest her?
He does behave, like a predator, and he
Hmm.
does
Play with his food.
play with his food. Like it's one of the reasons why because after Shoshana runs out of the house and starts running across this open field,
Hmm.
he could order his soldiers to chase her down or get in the car and chase her down or even fire the gun that he had pointed at her. Like him letting her go was a very intentional thing on his part. Like he
Hmm.
wanted her to get away so he could find her later.
Yeah, I mean, and I do think that the whole time, like Hans Landa actually does see the Nazi uniform as a as just a jacket. He is really out for himself the whole time. And so it personally, he probably didn't see any
Mhm.
in Shoshana any reason like to it didn't forward his cause at all.
Yeah. Yeah, he like very obviously is not a true believer in the Third
Yeah.
Reich.
Yeah.
Uh,
He was perfectly comfortable with killing all of with ending the Third Reich in one day.
not just comfortable, but jovial.
Yeah, I wonder, here's a question. Do you think Hans Landa um liked the Nazis?
I think he likes the process of investigation
Hmm.
and like okay, so at in the farmhouse scene, he or in multiple times throughout the movie, he describes himself as like, "Oh, I'm an investigator and a good one, and I like doing it." He says that out loud. During the farmhouse scene, like the farmer pulls out this little wooden pipe and starts smoking it.
Hmm.
And then Hans pulls out this huge, ridiculous pipe that he lights up. And I watched this on Amazon Prime, and they have like a little trivia
X-ray.
section.
Yeah.
And the in that section it was so like, oh, Quentin Tarantino chose this pipe as a just as a clear homage to Sherlock Holmes,
Hmm.
because Sherlock Holmes also is often shown with this weird like hook shaped
Yeah.
pipe,
And he's a detective.
and he's a detective. So I think Hans, in his own words, he said, "I'm an investigator, and I lived in Germany, so I got put to work investigating Jews."
Hmm.
So
And that was also the question about Werner von Braun too. Was you know who that is? He was
the
the
Rocketeer,
yeah. And a lot of people question like he clearly was just a nerd, like a autistic nerd about rockets. He just wanted to build rockets.
yeah,
And he didn't really it
he
oh
he wanted to go to the moon. Like
yeah.
that's what he wanted when he
Yeah.
was in Germany, and then but like the Nazis weren't looking to fund a moon mission; they were looking to shoot rockets at people.
Yeah.
So obviously, like he's a rocketeer. The Nazis needed rocketeers for one specific purpose, and so that's what he ended up doing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And there were, he had been he'd been criticized by the Nazi party for kind of talking shit about the Nazis.
Mhm.
And then he was obviously criticized in America
Being a Nazi.
for being a Nazi. And I don't know, it's a weird thing. Like the guy just wanted to build rockets and the war was the greatest opportunity of a lifetime for building rockets, and he was given all the resources that he could ever want. And so he built rockets. And was he right in doing that? Uh, like he clearly wasn't ideological,
Yeah,
because then he built rockets so well for the Americans, and I'm sure and if the Russians snatched him up, guess what? I think he would build rockets for the Russians.
yeah,
Like,
um, yeah. Although the lack of ideology could easily be rephrased as a lack of moral compass, which I think is very.
yeah,
I think I don't know. You know the I don't want to get too bogged down in like what Werner von Braun was like, but specifically with Hans, uh, a lack of moral compass and a comfortability with cruelty of like looking someone in the eyes and then ordering their death is clearly evil.
yeah, and I think that lesson is in Hans Landa for sure
Yeah,
as
like his
well.
he has his moral compass is not exercised very frequently.
No, there's nothing there. There's no
Yeah.
moral compass there. Is there anything else you have to say about the farm scene? Why do you think it's the best scene in the movie?
I think that the building of tension is very smooth and gradual and very emotional.
Hmm.
Just the expression on the face of the French farmer. Like there's like a good minute where it's just a close up of his face
Hmm.
while Hans is talking, and the like the artistry on display there is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Of him like slowly realizing that there's no that the only thing that he can do is betray these people that he's been living with for months, resulting in their deaths.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then right after that, they introduce Aldo Rain.
Hmm.
You're done with the farmhouse as well?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
and
I just want to point out, like, okay, at the beginning, well, I already kind of pointed that out, but it's the they're that it's important that those Jews were underneath hiding, and Shoshana was hiding who she was as a Jew. Um, yeah, yeah, and then yeah, we introduce Aldo Raines, um, giving the speech.
yeah, which I think I remember like there being trailers for this movie that are just that
Oh
speech.
yeah, because it's so good.
Yeah, yeah.
One thing
We
that it
were
was kind of interesting was he said that he's descendant of Jim Brewer, or the Mountain Man Jim Brewer or something, and so he has part Indian in him. And I guess he had a I guess he might have had a Indian wife or something.
hmm,
But that kind of is an interesting point too, where that I like that's where the scalping comes from. Is that injection of
yeah.
Indian into his personality, you know?
Well, it's also just like a fully unnecessary additional cruelty and I don't know what's that word, like dehumanization or
Yeah.
yeah, like the whole point is to like humiliate his defeated opponents.
Hmm.
Given his intense hatred of Nazis, makes a lot of sense.
It's something that was first used on Americans, and them as Americans are kind of taking that cruelty, and they're like, yeah, that was a good idea. We're gonna use it on Germans. So
Yeah,
it's like that carrying the torch of cruelty over to Germany. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Of like you know the German, the Nazis are cruel people, and we're gonna talk to them in the language they understand, kind of thing.
Hmm. Yeah.
But also like bringing American style violence over to Germany, or to the
Hmm.
Germans at least, is exactly what the baseball bat is.
Completely. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
the most American way of killing someone is
Hmm.
with a baseball
With a
bat.
baseball bat. A baseball bat is essentially a symbol for America.
Yeah. In the scene where the beating happens, it is oddly reminiscent of a sports stadium, where
Hmm.
there's like they're all sitting down, and there's these like tiers of seats, like
Yeah, totally.
getting higher and higher. And then like as he comes out, they're all like shouting like
Yeah.
baseball aphorisms to him.
Well, Aldo even says like this is the closest thing we have for entertainment,
Yeah.
outside of America. Yeah, so it sort of is like Coliseum. Like, do you remember how the Bear Jew was introduced? He was
So I
in a
think
he was in a tunnel.
okay, yeah, and he was like, yeah, and as in order to intimidate their prisoners, he was hitting the baseball bat against the side of the tunnel.
Yeah, he was announcing his own entrance, basically.
Hmm. Hmm. He was a monster sitting in a cave, which
It could be.
every movie has to have a dragon.
Yeah. So now you know who the dragon is in this
So
movie.
the
It's
dragon is
Ordell, the Bear Jew.
yeah,
They're all
there's got
they're
to be
all
a
the
dragon.
same. The Bear Jew was going to be played by Samuel L. Jackson. Did you know that?
Really?
No.
Okay, okay.
No, but I don't believe that. I don't that's not where I was going with it.
Yeah,
Although I
I
do like your I do like that
that was a
take.
complete joke. I didn't think you were going there.
No, it was what I tell me what you think of this though. To, I thought that it had to do with we just saw Jews in hiding and running away.
Uh-huh.
And then in the very next scene, well, almost the very next scene, we see a Jew coming out of hiding towards running towards the bad guys.
Okay.
So, and to me that represented that sort of
Pride.
aspect.
Yeah, like the
Yeah,
like a proud Jew, like
yeah. Instead of
coming
hiding your Jewishness, you're taking pride in it, and
and
using
yeah,
it to
and
your
coming out to
advantage.
yeah, like yeah, even like, and he's the only one who had a nickname, had the word Jew in his nickname. He's the Bear Jew. He's
Yeah.
the
Oh yeah, they're
um
all Jewish. I forgot about that.
yeah. So I got that a little bit differently. I viewed that as him being like a horror movie monster to the Germans. In fact, all of the Bastards are
Yeah.
kind of like that, where
Oh yeah.
it's almost like that, like the musical sting that happens in Jaws,
Hmm.
where this like
Yeah.
this loud low thumping gets like louder and faster until the monster is here and he beats you with a baseball bat.
Hmm. And it is sort of gladiatorial also that the way that he entered. It's
Oh
like
yeah,
right
like
out of the Gladiator.
I was actually gonna say right out of WWE. Like he
Yeah,
comes
with the
out
nickname and everything.
to literal fanfare.
I think the lesson that we can learn about that though is like the psychological lesson is to not hide who you are, but to be proud of who you are. Be authentic. Don't not be who you are.
Yeah, that's a running theme with the Bastards, is that they are
Hmm.
incredibly authentic. Even the ones who aren't original members of the cast.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Like
I mean, I even think Aldo Raines is incapable of inauthenticity.
Oh yeah, he tries to
Yeah.
lie, and it's
It's
hilarious.
it's
Uh,
it's hilarious how bad it is.
yeah, like at the very end of the movie, like Hans is this human lie detector, this person
Mhm.
who just from like looking at people's faces and like listening to them talk can tell if they're lying or not, and he's famed as this almost supernatural investigator.
Well, and he's
And
used to very good liars too.
yeah, and so at the end of the movie, he shows up to this event with the world's worst liars,
Yeah.
like with not only who are like with who are clearly not who they say they are, but also like have the most ridiculous, fantastical story for why they're
Yeah.
there. So yeah, so it's like and he loves toying with people.
Hmm.
So he has like he cannot resist toying with them. Like he
Well,
has to.
go on about the bad story too.
So yeah, like where
And
Hammer's Mark is who is a person that he knows, that Hans knows, like even by her own admission, like the story that she broke her leg mountain climbing,
which was Aldo's idea too.
it
He's
was
like, "Yep."
Aldo's idea.
And it was
Uh,
clearly Aldo's idea because the way she said it was like, I know this is stupid.
yeah, and then Aldo and his buddy are are asked to like say their names,
Hmm.
and Hans coaches them through the correct pronunciation of the Italian
Exactly.
names they're supposed to have.
Yeah. He's so ahead of them in that department that he is giving them lessons on how to do it to their
Yeah,
faces. Like he broke his composure too at like how bad they were doing. Like when he, on the surface he's laughing at Hammer's Mark when she said she broke her foot mountain climbing. On the surface it's he's laughing because that's so outside of her character.
yeah,
But the subtext of the laugh, what the true laugh was about, was how bad they are at that game that he's so good at. That they tried to sneak that one by him.
yeah. It's like their inability to lie is sort of represents a hatred of subversion,
Mm-hmm.
which also goes back to the carving the
Co-
swastikas on the forehead,
exactly.
where it's like I don't want anyone to go through any effort trying to suss out if you're a Nazi at any point in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna remove your ability to lie about this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, and that's why Aldo and Hans are such great protagonists and antagonists because they represent two opposite things
Yeah.
like that are in conflict with each other, which is
Yeah, because Hans he never needs to lie. He's he's like except when he's talking to like Goebbels, he's always the person in charge. He's always the most senior person in the room. He's always doing exactly what the Fuhrer wants anyway.
mhm.
He doesn't need to lie. Like he when in the farmhouse scene, he didn't need to have the farmer tell him where the Jews were, because he could have just it was not a big cabin,
Mhm.
and he said himself like if oh the if another German was here, he would just command the soldiers to come in, break everything, and rip up the floorboards, and that would have worked. Like
Mhm.
that would have like, but he chose to lie on purpose just to play with these people.
Do you think it was just to play with them though? There isn't any other higher purpose to it?
Like maybe it would have been slightly more like knowing exactly where they were would have been slightly more beneficial to him than ripping up the floorboards and just looking for them.
Yeah. Well, he wanted people to admit the truth on their own, come to it on their own. I don't know. Yeah, there's not a lot of clues in the movie. But yeah, it's just playing with people. It doesn't seem it doesn't seem like like a good enough reason to do all that. Like there is a part of it, but I feel like there has to be like a greater reason for it. Like it could have to do with his sort of like he doesn't see himself as a brute, you know. He sees himself as a as carrying out unpleasant things that like unpleasant necessities. But he is trying to keep this civilized veneer to it.
So
Uh,
that actually does touch on something that like I thought was very strange and have really no idea why it was included, which was him sort of breaking down and strangling Hammersmark to death.
yeah. It was exactly reminiscent of the Zoller scene with Shoshana
Oh yeah, yeah, where
at the
the
end.
where yeah, the fascist is kind of revealed to be
Hmm. That
brutish and
was
violent.
yeah, where it's like all just the two of them in the room, doors are locked, and that's when the real fangs come out. Yeah, and the who you really are is revealed.
Hmm. Well, there's actually a little bit of that too with Hallstrom, where if you remember when Hallstrom gets Shoshana into the car to drive to the dinner that Hans eventually shows up at,
Hmm.
he's he's there on a for like diplomatic purposes. Like they want to use her theater, and presumably the Nazis are giving favor to Shoshana by hosting this event there.
Hmm.
But when it's just her and Hallstrom, he's incredibly rude to her.
Yeah,
He makes a demand, which she says no. He follows it up with a very direct threat. He
yeah.
says, "Get your ass in the car."
Yeah, get your ass in the car. Yeah. Which to me was a little bit jarring considering well, I at first I thought oh that's the, you know, that's Tarantino trying to ratchet up the tension
Hmm.
of her identity being revealed,
Oh yeah,
you know, and that like so we as the audience were thinking, "Oh shit, she's found out." Like it was Zoller even said, "Oh, you accepted the I'm so glad you accepted the invitation." And she was like,
yeah,
invitation?
yeah,
The Nazis were just like not going to accept no as an answer, so they may as well not even ask.
yeah. And I think like all these examples of like Nazis abusing their power in a way that's very emotional and petty
Mm-hmm.
happens throughout the entire movie, where the Nazi characters feel entitled to
Mm.
X or Y
Oh yeah.
in a way that feels very human and not like a cartoon villain.
Except Hitler is a cartoon villain in this.
In this movie, Hitler's a cartoon villain. We can I don't think there's a subtle way to portray Hitler. He's too
Yeah.
much of a cartoon in real life. Like the historical Hitler was a cartoon character. But like I like in no other movie have I been has like the Schadenfreude of seeing a bunch of Nazis die been quite as gratifying.
Hmm.
Like the by like they don't do any of the worst things that the Nazis did. Like all of the most terrible things that the Nazis did were way worse than these little sort of social faux pas and
Yeah.
displays of arrogance. Like these are all very minor evils in the grand scheme of the Third Reich,
Hmm.
but it really makes you hate them. And
Yeah.
at the very end of the movie, when you see all the Nazis explode, yeah, there's just a huge amount of Schadenfreude. Like, yeah, get them.
Hmm. Yeah. Like in Death Proof.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do think that that was what the movie was trying to say about the Nazis is that the view of it was that they sort of like pretty themselves up in a lot of civilized trappings to other people, like to the rest of the world, and also to their own citizens and to themselves even, and that they're so they have all these trappings of civilization and erudition.
Yeah, like the idea of like the sophisticated German officer is kind of
Hmm.
a trope that's existed.
Yeah, but the things that are happening, their actions are just so horrendous and
Mm,
brutal and inhuman, um,
yeah,
that when it's finally revealed and they finally meet like a brutal, inhuman end, like you kind of feel like the just desserts were served,
yeah.
or the just strudels.
Hmm. The just strudels with extra cream.
Wait for the cream. Yeah. And that scene also was demonstrating that. It's like you don't eat the strudel without the cream. How can you
Yeah,
be so how
so
so
provincial.
yeah, exactly. There's one other thing about the beating scene.
Okay, let's
Um
hear it.
I thought that it was a very interesting take. And this actually happens later on in the movie and with some other Tarantino movies as well, where the Bear Jew asked the German officer where he got that Iron Cross from.
Yeah,
He said, "Oh, you get this from killing Jews," and he said, "Bravery." And so I Tarantino kind of gave the German officer a really good death.
yeah. I was actually, yeah, I do have that.
He
I do have that written down.
came
As
across as honorable man.
yeah, and and I think they obviously hate Nazis, and this guy's a Nazi,
Hmm.
or at the very least a German soldier. Uh, but they kind of give him not what he wants, but like uh sort of the respect that he's earned.
Hmm.
They ask him, do you want to give us the information or do you want to die? And he says, essentially, I want to die.
Yeah.
And he's not he's literally wearing his bravery on his chest.
Hmm.
And he doesn't get scalped on screen at least. Although they certainly probably did that, but it's not shown in the movie, so he at least doesn't have to go through that indignity. And they don't carve it into his head. He gets yeah, like you said, a very he's an honorable person who gets kind of an honorable end. The other two soldiers are both cowards.
Hmm. Yeah.
One tries to run and gets shot in the back, and then the other one is the coward that
Pointed
uh
right away at the map.
pointed right away. Yeah, like almost like with gusto. Like
Yeah.
as if he was any slower in pointing out his allies, like that that he would be hit in the head.
Yeah. 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 All the bad characters are actually given some honorable qualities. Like Zoller is genuinely a war hero, and Londa is, extremely smart, but he didn't really want to do that for Hitler. Because and I do think that his vision I mean, his vision of evil is a cartoon character, and I think that's actually a proper vision of evil. Like the stuntman from Death Proof, he's a
Yeah,
cartoon character, and Hitler is a cartoon character. Like these movies, he's starting to actually have, because originally he had bad guys being the heroes,
being the protagonists.
being the protagonists, yeah. But now he's starting to have actual true villains in his movies, and the way that he portrays them is just like cartoons. And that works in a movie sense because you don't feel any you can just not think about it and just want them to be defeated. But it
Mhm.
also I think it also is true. Like evil does look like that. When you look at true evil people that in history, like or more modern times, they look like cartoon characters.
Yeah.
Like they don't conform to humanity. Hitler, while he is talking to the young guy that got away, that the bastards let go. Well, do you remember what's being done in that room?
Oh yeah, there's a like was it, a 40-foot mural of Hitler himself
Yeah,
being
exactly.
painted.
Yeah. And he looks like a giant hero.
Yeah.
And he looks
No, he
not
looks like he looks like a king from the High Middle Ages.
yeah, yeah,
Like
exactly.
with like the like the red cape with the white and black fringe.
Hmm.
Like it's very very kingly and royal.
Yeah, yeah. And it looked nothing like
Oh,
the
the actual
sweaty bumbling Hitler that was on screen, like the sweaty anxious Hitler that was in front of the mural.
yeah.
Yeah, like I think that's one of the themes of the movie too, is this sort of
Well, it's
uh
also it's also kind of true to Hitler because his he was kind of noted as being this very manic person.
mhm. Yeah. No, I mean, I think Tarantino's taken the proper view of these historical figures, like who
Yeah,
they are.
and because like Hitler in the view of the audience is already is a cartoon character, and undoing that and humanizing him would be and has been an entire movie.
Yeah.
Like you can't spend 5 minutes like humanizing Hitler and have it work. Like you really do. That is a movie long project. So his I think he made the right call.
Yeah, but it's sort of similar to Zoller, you know,
Oh yeah. Well,
and
and
it's sort of it's
also
sort of it's sort of a comment on art, which is like art can be used as a way to lie to a bunch of people very effectively, you know.
well that's also like because like I mentioned earlier about how every one of the storylines is a character uh sort of seeking truth in their own way.
Hmm.
And that was Shoshana's way of seeking truth is through cinema,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
exactly.
where basically having no option but to play a Nazi propaganda piece at her theater as someone who's presumably a movie lover was just too much of an indignity for her to suffer.
Hmm.
So, and her way of counteracting the inherent lie of the heroic Nazi that was being portrayed in this propaganda film was through her own
Literally with
movie.
film.
Yeah, with
Yeah,
film.
with
Uh
film burning the film.
oh yeah, no, yeah. She also like she literally killed the Nazis with film.
Yeah,
Like literal physical film. Yeah.
yeah.
Hans is kind of like through like achieves the truth through guile and people skills and all that. And Hans, or not Hans, Aldo gets the truth out of people in the most direct and violent way possible and
Hmm.
cruel. The cruelty is essential. Shoshana kind of like uses film like as a as a turned it from a tool of propagating lies to a tool of achieving truth and justice.
Yeah, and I think that's a actually a really important philosophical point. Whereas like all these tools, like people people think the tool is the answer. Like film is the answer for truth. But they're all just tools that can be used for evil as well, you know. So brutality, that's the method, but it's used by the Nazis and it's used by the good guys. The only difference is this kind of tricky question of morality. It's easier to look at the tool than it is to look at to investigate what's moral, you know,
Yeah.
because morality morality is a lot of times told to you through these tools, but but you have to kind of understand what's moral on your own. You can't just believe what's been shown to you, in
Yeah.
movies. Like, and you really have to, I mean, it goes in with the theme of authenticity in the movie is like, you can only be moral if you're authentic.
Well, yeah, like so Shoshana is a very authentic person.
Yeah.
Like so Zoller shows up at her theater and in his uniform and starts flirting with her, and she knows that he has power over her.
Hmm.
Like when he asks her name, she hands him her papers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but so she's fully aware of the fact that like schmoozing with the Nazis is a good idea, but she just cannot help but be authentic
Hmm.
and be uh flatly rude to him, try to get him to leave her alone.
Hmm.
And the like at the dinner that she has with Zoller and Goebbels and Hans, which I have down here as the nightmare dinner.
Hmm.
As soon as Hans leaves, she breaks down.
Yeah.
Like she like maintaining the facade is obviously incredibly draining for her.
Yeah.
Like where it's so effortless for Hans and many of the other bad like evil characters.
Yeah. Yeah, because she is authentic.
Mhm. And a speaking of like characters being authentic in the bar scene,
Hmm.
the the two spies are Hammerstrom and God, I forgot the other guy's name, the British guy,
Archie.
Archie. Yeah,
Yeah.
where the two spies are like completely in their element, lying.
Yeah.
Like Archie is being like friendly and like, oh, I'll have a scotch,
Hmm.
and they're laughing and joking, be like, ah, that's it's hilarious. Oh, we've known each other for so long, it's great. And then like the entire time, Stiglitz is just sitting next to Hallstrom, just glaring at him, just
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
he clearly hates this guy.
And he can't
When
hide it.
he can't hide it at all. But funny enough, it's the spies that give away their cover.
Well, the you have to hand it to that guy. He beat them at their own game.
Yeah.
Um, but okay, minor nitpick. Earlier in the movie, the German guy said, "I know every German in the entire army knows Hugo Stiglitz."
Um,
Like, wouldn't they like?
he knows the name.
Oh, yes. Okay, yeah, that's right. All right.
Like
You mean he wasn't on Instagram Reels?
he wasn't doing dances on TikTok.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Welcome to Stig_Litz.
Yeah. Yeah, so it is the spies that give it away. So why do you think that's important? It
Hmm.
it's kind of like you can never be more German than a German,
Yeah, like
So
where
that's the wrong tact.
there's no way to be the perfect liar.
Hmm.
Like because Stiglitz sort of mean mugging him during the whole dinner or the whole while they're drinking is very easily explainable. It's like, oh, he's just an asshole.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't you don't need any explanation for that behavior other than just oh he's a jackass.
Hmm.
He doesn't like me for some reason, whatever. But if someone's pretending to like you and turns out that they've been lying this whole time, that's a far more suspicious thing.
Yeah.
So like lying to divert suspicion is more suspicious than just not lying at all. because they are like friendly and affable and larger than life and laughing and joking and all that, and they're just presenting too many opportunities to be found out.
Hmm. Okay, well, I also have another. I just can't get over. There's another nitpick I have, which is
Okay.
why did they why did they meet out in public? Like that
Yeah.
makes no sense to me. Why didn't they just
What?
meet her in that same room that they went through it with Archie in? Like I
Yeah.
don't get it.
Or just like a private residence, like somebody's house,
Yeah.
someone that you trust. Yeah.
Why even take that risk?
I think the explanation I think was a little before Hammersmark showed up was a little bit more believable, which is, oh, she's not a soldier, she's an actress. She just picked a spot. So
Yeah.
I think like that location is just more of a sort of a demonstration of Hammersmark's kind of lack of expertise in this field.
Yeah, but why wouldn't they tell her to meet somewhere else
Yeah, I don't know why
if
they
thought it
would
was a
rely on the
terrible idea?
I don't know why they would rely on the expertise of the only non-expert. And like not only was Wilhelm and his friends there like drinking, but there was an SS agent there too.
Yeah. And then when that happened, why didn't they just leave?
That was also ridiculous, but that was also lampshaded as well because they sat down and they said, "Oh, it'll look suspicious if we all sat down at this bar and didn't at least have a drink.
Mm-hmm.
So let's finish one. Let's order a round of drinks. Let's drink and then leave."
Mm-hmm.
So I think that so I think
Yeah,
that
it's a cover. It's a
it's
cover.
yeah, like it's not a fully great explanation because if you show up, if they'd showed up and there's like literally the whole place is just filled to bursting with Nazis,
Yeah.
then the more appropriate thing would probably be to just be like, yeah, this is too hot, let's leave. But at least they like sort of they noted that, hey, this is weird. We're having the characters acknowledge that what they're
Yeah.
doing is weird. So and let's just move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like yes, it's not like there's fully no plot hole. It's more like there's the plot hole, they acknowledge it and move on.
Yeah. Well, like I thought the better lampshade was the insinuation that she was possibly a double agent. Remember that in the vet's clinic, and he put his finger in her bullet hole.
Oh yeah, they didn't trust her.
Yeah, because
And there's
she she acted so outside of their interests
yeah,
that that they thought that she was a spy against them.
yeah, yeah, and that was just another example of Aldo obtaining truth through cruelty.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Okay, let's back up a little bit though, because we kind of just roared right into that scene, which is that super important scene.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the I have one little thing to say in regards to the scene where they introduce Archie. I think that scene kind of connects to the Hitler scene where it's like this big hall where they explain a bunch of stuff.
An enormous, very empty room.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
just
like the
sparse. The only thing that's there is a piano with an old guy.
yeah,
And who is he supposed to be? Winston Churchill?
it's Churchill.
Okay.
Yeah,
Um and some old guy. And
in
then
a in a globe with liquor in it.
yeah, a glove of liquor. Yeah, that's it. And then you actually, because I was paying attention because it looks so much like the Hitler scene. There are giant portraits in it, but you can only see the feet. So they don't need, so it's like this thing of the past that doesn't really matter. And Hitler is actually kind of like trailblazing a new future in his mind.
Yeah,
And yeah. and the British are sort of like they're sort of like they seem in that room like sort of like conservators of the past, you know.
Well, yeah, like it's like the globe is almost like a little reminder that they used to own the world.
Oh, yeah, good point. Yeah.
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 I was wondering what the symbol of the globe meant.
It may or may not actually mean anything.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
I know. Yeah, because it is just a funny item that fits in that room.
yeah, mix yourself a drink.
Yeah, because
The,
in
the
a
the
way,
bars
the
inside the globe.
what do you think of Archie, the film critic?
Uh, Archie is the most clear indication from the director that the movie is about film.
Yeah.
Uh, like
Well,
it could have just like the end of the
it took
movie could
place in
have
a movie theater.
it could have the movie theater could have just been the location where this happened.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, it's a very sensible location to kill a bunch of high society people.
Hmm. But Archie being
But
the film critic,
Archie being a film critic almost makes is is not something that needed to happen. Like he's where he's like he spends a lot of time like talking about like film
hmm,
and film history. Uh,
and that's his sort of knowledge of Germany is through German films.
yeah, and he is complimentary of Nazi filmmaking to some extent.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, even Shoshana, when she was, you remember when she was putting up the marquise, she even said that that the French respect directors, no matter like they respect the craft of the
Yeah,
directors. And even German directors who even though she hates the Germans, she still respects the craft of the directors. And that is kind of like the Iron Cross scene as well, in
yeah.
a way.
Oh yeah, like it's like we the idea of like, hey, this Nazi stuff is bad, and we're gonna kill a lot of Nazis, but this entire country isn't just full of monsters.
Or it's like you can even like there is sort of just this like bonds of war. Or I won't get into that. It doesn't matter. Archie, you knew he would die because film critics, when they're in movies, always die
Oh,
because
I have not
filmmakers hate film critics. Like
I have
any,
not noticed that trope, but
it's a trope. Um, and I feel like that even that French comment, like in France, directors are respected. I
mm.
feel like that was another sort of comment on American cinema where where we have to go to France to be respected as a director.
Outside of the text of the movie, it's Quentin Tarantino. The point doesn't get enough respect for
No, and that's why we're making this podcast
yeah.
because like what do you think is the general attitude towards Quentin Tarantino? Just like if you said describe Tarantino in a sentence to most people, they wouldn't be
Uh,
thinking like, "Oh, he has all these subtle subtextual nuances and his characters are so well are have such a rich undercurrent." Is that what
I
most
th
people would say?
no, I think most people would say stylish, hyper-violent movie is often told out of order.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which is only the surface of his movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think it is kind of just inherently interesting that the film critic actually becomes a part of a movie. Or I think it's interesting that the film critic um yeah, uses this sort of projected knowledge, you know, of
Mm.
cinema to glom onto the real world and just how ineffective that really is. No matter how smart you are.
Well, I think it's also that like you can that movies aren't the real world,
Yeah.
and that's why he got caught.
Hmm.
Is because he was so confident in his because that's in his ability to pass as German.
Why is film different than reality? That might be a silly question to ask, but
Like I think it's like that you're not able to account for everything
hmm,
because he was caught by the smallest possible thing.
yeah. There's a difference between being and pretending to be.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how good at pretending you are. It doesn't even come close to being the real thing. And
Mhm.
so what's interesting about this scene is it's sort of like the beginning scene of the movie. Sort of like the beginning scene in that like it's sort of a lesson on the subtext is happening below in the other under the room, and then
Mhm.
the text is happening above. And then so during this scene, the scene is about finding discovering people's hidden identities, and the game that they're playing is about guessing identities.
So it's there's that. There's also like the like it fulfills the very practical purpose of demonstrating Hallstrom's abilities as an investigator,
Hmm.
where he's sort of showing him as being very good at sussing out who people are. Because the fictional character that Stiglitz gave him was a hard one. That would have been a difficult thing to guess,
Hmm.
and he guessed it almost immediately.
Yeah, yeah, King Kong.
Yeah,
I
as a non-human fictional character.
yeah,
Yeah,
no, that was good. And it was sort of like he was so confident in it that he didn't want to there was a moment where he didn't even want to take the easy route, where he said, no,
yeah,
if I asked that, it would be too easy. So let me ask this other line of questions that makes it a little harder for me because it's just like playing with food again.
yeah.
I also think it's interesting that Tarantino kind of like through that deconstructed, had like a quick analysis deconstruction of what King Kong was about.
Yeah, that's that was a weird line.
What?
Like where like it's a big list of fictional characters. Like, oh, which fictional character are you? It's like, oh, am I the representation of this entire people?
Yeah,
No.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he it's more clever than that. It's like, well, it's either about a black slave coming to America or King Kong. So I'm gonna guess King Kong.
Okay.
Yeah. That was but I thought that I don't know, I thought it was clever.
I
And
thought
it
it was
was
yeah,
just
it was
we do a whole podcast trying to deconstruct movies, and he did it within a character's dialogue in a card scene in less than a minute. It was no like a virgin, but it was good. It was pretty good.
yeah.
And it is funny that, he one of the heroes is a film critic, and I think Tarantino does fashion himself all of his movies film critiques, as well as movies that themselves.
Well, yeah, like you don't try to sort of reinvent the concept of Pulp Fiction if you think that 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 pulpy fiction stories are perfect and don't need to be improved on.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, Pulp Fiction wasn't a Pulp Fiction movie grown organically. It was looking out, it was looking above the Pulp Fiction genre, from
And
outside.
improving it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. So Archie does his best, and then he's found out, And then I found it kind of interesting how he went out. Yeah,
to
go
drop
on.
the mask.
He dropped the mask and he goes, "Well, if it's over anyway, I may as well go out authentically, you know."
Yeah, there's like honestly, I do think that the movie is indicating that he was a good person, or at least an authentic person,
Hmm.
by the fact that like he just needed to have this moment of authenticity before he died.
Yeah. But he was playing the same game as the Germans. Like it was just never he was a good person playing a bad game because what the Germans are portrayed as being really good at is that sort of civilized sneakiness, you know.
Well, I think it's
And he
it's the reason why they're all like, where so many of the German characters are so good at sussing out liars is kind of because the entire society is built on lies.
well, yeah, I mean it's why it's kind of like the Soviet Union too. It's like it's sort of a meritocracy in a way. Whereas like the most savvy political player basically fights their way to the top.
Yeah,
And
like and Goebbels even says that to Zoller, like, a soldier now, a politician after the war.
yeah.
After he does a particularly good job of lying about his intentions.
Hmm. Wait, when was that?
That was during the Dinner from Hell,
What was
when
he
he was
lying about?
he was trying to convince Goebbels that the reason that he wanted the venue moved to Shoshana's theater was because of all these reasons of like, oh, it'll be because it's smaller, it'll be more exclusive, and will it'll be just a German event. We won't have all these French lackeys there,
Mm,
and every the whole speech was a
it was
complete lie,
yeah,
because like he just wanted the venue moved to Shoshana's place so he could cozy up to Shoshana.
yeah. All right, so after this scene in the basement, which also a basement hiding, the like the beginning scene with the Jews hiding in the basement,
Oh yeah.
this scene took place in the basement also, and it's people hiding their identities, you
Hmm.
know. So that was just something. But afterwards, the German soldiers the German soldier survives.
Briefly.
And I think that what do you think was trying to be said with that? Because that soldier didn't seem like a hardcore German, like especially in that moment.
I think
Like,
it might have been to show that Hammersmark was somewhat duplicitous, because they had come to an agreement.
mhm,
Uh, it's like, I trust, like, no guns. I trust you. You trust me. I'm gonna get this. I'm gonna get my person out from this basement, and you can go on to do whatever you
mhm.
were gonna do. Uh, and after the agreement was struck, then Hammersmark betrays that trust and shoots him.
Yeah,
So I think,
which was fucked up.
yeah, it was a betrayal.
Like, why do that? What there can be two reasons. One, she felt like she was a double agent and she was trying to get rid of somebody who could point her out or something or reveal her duplicity to the allies.
Oh, well, that guy
Or
that guy clearly needed to die, because otherwise he would have just gone straight to his supervisors. And
so I don't know if Aldo intended to kill him. I don't think that he did. I think he intended to.
I don't like I don't think Aldo would ever lie without some other option.
Mhm.
It seems to be so counter to his character.
Yeah, although he at the end he kind of did lie.
Yeah, but
But
with he did several things that were counter to his character, just because the carrot being dangled of ending the war and killing Hitler
mhm.
was such a carrot.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
because he mentions he's very clear about the fact that he hated the fact that Hans was getting off scot free.
Yeah.
It's to the point where he the his actions in the very last scene of the movie were done at great personal detriment.
Yeah.
Like that was if if if
Yeah.
if Aldo is just looking out for Aldo, he would never have done that. He would never have marked Hans.
And killed Herman.
Herman the German.
Oh, I wanted to know more about Herman.
That actually is a good point. Like who is Herman and
Yeah.
why is he so loyal to Hans that he's willing to basically surrender the war to the Allies? So the premiere.
The premiere. We're at the premiere. Um,
Something that I did kind of notice is how Nazi Shoshana is.
how what?
How Nazi she is. So
How
okay, so
so?
so just at baseline, she's blonde hair and blue eyes,
Oh yeah.
and then
Mm.
her outfit is red with black accents,
Mm-hmm.
which is which has her look like has her looking very much playing the part of the Nazi or the Nazi
Yeah.
sympathizer.
Yeah. Well, there's like a whole suit up scene with her, which I was a little bit confused by, but I guess that makes sense. Is she's going in to play the part of something that she hates,
Mhm.
which is a little bit like Django, you know, um, that we'll see later. I thought it was funny like the expression that Hans used. He says, "Well, if the shoe fits, is that the expression?"
Oh yeah.
And then he asks Aldo, and he's like, "Looks like the shoe's on the other foot."
Oh, there's a charming expression about shoes and feet.
So he doesn't give in to his game at all.
Yeah, and then the shoe returns to the first foot. Aldo was originally intending to kill all of the Nazis in the theater.
Hmm.
The shoe, like the power swaps to Hans as he
Hmm.
captures him. And then the power goes back to Aldo
Oh yeah,
after he surrenders at the border.
yeah. And there is sort of like speaking of shoes and feet, there is there's this
Let me preempt you here. I just
yeah.
have the word Cinderella written down here.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say too. Is well, the first thing is the Hallstrom is drinking his beer out of a glass boot,
Oh yeah.
like kind of like a glass slipper. And then there's a slipper on the ground. Yeah, explain the Cinderella connection.
So I don't know if there's actually a connection to the story of Cinderella, but the it definitely did evoke that story. Yeah, where it's like, oh, I've I have the shoe of, in this case, the guilty person,
Hmm.
and I'm going to see if the shoe fits.
Yeah, yeah, and there's also a ball.
I
It
think the
might just be
Cinderella
cute.
thing is, yes, in the same way that the Sherlock Holmes pipe was kind of cute.
Yeah,
I think that's as far as it goes.
yeah, and well, when Cinderella, what happens after it turns midnight?
Like the the carriage turns back into a pumpkin and the dress
Yeah,
goes away. Yeah.
yeah. So it's sort of this similarly to like you have this fantasy period of time and then you return back to reality. Yeah. I think this movie is the fruition of the two Tarantino giant themes, which is that fantasy versus reality theme and the
Mhm.
themes about identity.
Like being true to yourself and who you are on the inside and your ability to hide that or inability to hide that.
Hmm. Yeah. Like the only real truth is your authenticity. And but society kind of expects you to put on a character. Okay, so we're at the ball. It's very lucky for the for everyone involved that there were two plots against Hitler that night.
Okay, so Hitler, Goebbels, Goering, and one other guy uh
Yeah, I
would
didn't know
all would
that character in history was.
yeah would all die no matter what because they go up to the box
Hmm.
and they kill all the big important people.
Hmm.
So the only the only thing that Shoshana's plot adds to the story is that a bunch of other Nazi high ups die too,
Hmm.
which if would probably assist in the cutting the head off the snake.
Yeah.
It's not just the four bigwigs, but large segments of the high command.
Yeah, and they would have had to lock the doors of the front doors of the movie theater too, because the balcony doors weren't locked.
Yeah, so if it was just Shoshana's plan, then Hitler would have gotten out,
Yeah,
and the
probably, most
and the four
likely.
people that Hans names would have gotten out too. Yeah,
Um,
so the combination of the two plans was very fortuitous.
Very fortuitous, and they worked suspiciously well together
Yeah,
for
uh,
not being for not having communicated.
that was like that I'm just gonna chalk up to being like the artifice of filmmaking. Like, okay, it's
Yeah.
just it's all just coming together.
Do you think that kids in the future will watch this movie, and because in a lot of ways it's extremely accurate with history. Do you think that kids will grow up thinking that there were a bunch of people scalping Nazis and Hitler was killed in a theater?
I think the movie is very clear about itself being a sort of fantastical alternate history.
Uh-huh.
I know you're not being serious right now,
No, I
but
am. I am. Like I can see people watching watching this movie, and if you didn't really know about World War II at all, maybe in the future there's not as many movies made about that. Maybe they'll make all the movies about World War III. But I can see someone that's like just coming of age watching this and being like, well, I know it's just a movie, but I guess Hitler died in a theater but to a bunch of gunshots because it's more exciting than his real death.
yeah, of shooting himself in an underground bunker as well. No, actually, no. I would say that. Well, yeah, yeah, it's more dramatic,
Yeah.
but like as his empire collapses around him, like hiding in a bunker as the Russians from the east and the Western powers from like the south and west sort of converge on Berlin.
So you don't think anybody though will think that's the way that Hitler died?
I think somebody will, but I think it's unlikely enough that it's not really worth talking about.
All right. Yeah. Well, that's sort of my point though about the power of cinema as a tool to to rewrite history almost. Because well, you look at what when Hans Landa was on the phone um via Herman's skills,
Yeah,
um what was he doing?
he
What
was
was
rewriting history.
he
Yeah,
was rewriting history. He was saying, I want the record to reflect all of this. And then what does Tarantino do in the very next scene? He
yeah,
rewrites history. He shows, okay, this is how easily it can be done. You can just say something happened and then present it in a believable way. And that's rewriting history.
yeah. I would the word in that sentence that I would contest the most is believable. I don't. Nothing about this story is.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
I guess I guess he's saying that I'm not trying to, but I'm showing you how it can be done.
Okay, yeah.
There's also this power of cinema with the way that Shoshana died in that projector room,
Hmm.
but and then only after then her the reel came up where she spoke from.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like she's living on through film.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that I thought that that was a level of poetry that I haven't seen in a Tarantino movie yet. Like up to this point, we haven't really like the lengths that he went through to get to that moment of poetry where she was like ghostly living on in the smoke through the film was very poetic.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That was yeah, like that was a clear decision,
Hmm.
and I think it worked out pretty well.
And it only lives on because of the truth, so when you tell lies they sort of like get lost and forgotten, but when you tell truth, that is when uh, a story is powerful enough to live on, I
Yeah.
think, is the point.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's also this is the point in in her vengeance arc where the the bad guy, which is the entirety of the Nazi upper crust,
Hmm.
sort of realizes that they're being punished for their own wrongdoings.
Yeah.
Like they like if it's if the propaganda film just continues playing as normal and they all just and the theater just catches fire and they all die, then from like a punishment perspective, like the bad guys aren't realizing that they're being punished.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an important aspect of that of her
Yeah.
going
That.
like
Yeah.
through
Exactly. As
through
opposed to it being
pretty
an accident.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, one minor note that the last kind of minor note I have. Did you notice that Aldo was like sniffing something out of a can?
It was snuff.
It was snuff. Wait,
Yeah.
what is snuff? Is that
It's
tobacco?
yeah, it's like tobacco that you just snort.
Oh, okay.
I did realize that he knows that his snuff box was an SS snuff box.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I kind of like this idea of just like a bunch of wild bands of kind of rogue bands of weird people are just running rampant throughout Germany.
Yeah, they're like it's right there in the title. They're
Yeah.
they're 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 not heroes.
Yeah.
They're inglorious bastards.
Yeah, and they wear it with pride. They're kind of
Yeah,
they're
they're
kind
they're 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 engaging in actual war crimes by like wearing
yeah.
German uniforms and stuff.
And I sort of get the idea too, like Aldo, because a lot of hay is made about like people speculate on why he has the sort of the scar around his neck and that he had been a victim of
A lynching or something.
not a victim, but maybe, I don't know. Maybe because he was like protecting black people. Yeah. But I kind of my interpretation of it is that he was legitimately hanged for a legitimate problem because he is just a bad guy.
Oh
But
yeah, he's
this war was the perfect context for a bad person to excel.
yeah, it's taking your own evil person and just sicking them on the Nazis.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that like after the war is over, he's gonna go back to being just a despicable person and being kind of useless to society, but
Kind of useless. Yeah, it's actually a good.
kind of a
That's actually
problem.
that's a good way of describing like peacetime Aldo.
Yeah. And people say the same thing about Winston Churchill too, like that he was kind of obnoxious before and after the war, but during the war he was like the perfect person to
Hmm.
to be in that position. All right.
But
Anything else, Nick, that you are dying
uh,
to say,
I
or
think
even
I'm
just little things?
I think I'm dry. I think I got it. I got everything I wanted to get across.
Okay. All right. Well, in that case, Nick, if you'll allow me, I'd like to go out speaking to kings.
Go
And
on. Yeah.
that was Mythic Tarantino.